My name is R. Kapoor, and I'll be talking about the king of rocket engines, the Raptor engine. This will be talking about the Raptor engine. I'll explain how the rocket engine works, what makes this different than other rocket engines, and the impact of this engine. How do rocket engines work? They work on Newton's third law of gravity. Every action is an equal or opposite reaction. For example, if I push on this wall that's right behind me, I go backwards. I'm exerting force this way, and I'm going this direction. So I'm going the opposite reaction. And think about it as the same thing as a rocket, except they're pushing on like the hot fire that's coming out of the rocket engine. Now we'll talk about engine cycles. How does an open cycle rocket engine work? So you have your fuel and oxidizer here. They pass through pumps, and they combust in the combustion chamber. But that's not the full story. Because something needs to power the pump so they can like pump fuel into the combustion chamber, but you know, you need something needs to power it, and something does. It's called the pre-burner right here. And like the best way to think about it, at least how I think about it, is as a mini rocket engine. So you see here the fuel and the oxidizer come here, right? The oxidizer comes here, and a little bit of the oxidizer goes here into the into the pre-burner, and it's like a combustion chamber except mini, and that's pretty much it. And it goes here, it spins a turbine, which spins the shaft, which powers the pump. So that's pretty much how a closed cycle rocket engine works. I mean, that is not a full story. I mean, there's a bunch of little details here and there, but that's the main story of how closed cycle rocket engine works. And if you're wondering what happens to the what happens to this pre-burn fuel, they just dump it overboard. This is where this gets dumped overboard. You may be asking me, you said the pre-burner was a mini rocket engine, but what is coming out of it is very black and sooty, and does not look similar to the main combustion chamber. Like, okay, if you don't know what I mean by this, it's like, you know how I showed you the video, a clip of the Merlin engine. You can see that you saw that the like very black part, like very black and sooty part. That part was basically like when it got dumped overboard. The fuel got dumped overboard, and like you could probably tell what the main combustion chamber is. But I'm saying that it looks like a mini rocket engine, but it doesn't. The what's coming out of it doesn't look anything like what's coming out of the main combustion chamber, and here's why. So there's one thing I haven't mentioned is that this engine is fuel rich. So what I mean, well, they put in the pre-burner they put more fuel than oxygen. Well, I mean what I'm basically meaning is they put a lot more fuel into the pre-burner than oxygen. So that's why it's very black and um very just black really. And there's other kind of engines that are maybe like oxygen rich. I mean, they use more oxygen to put in the engine, and those look similar to the main combustion chamber. But most people don't use that oxygen rich because it's hotter, and it has like it gets hotter, and it's like you gotta deal with that heating somehow. And so many people's opt for fuel rich engines instead of oxygen rich engines, but there are some oxygen rich engines out there. And but I know I'm only like talking about the open cycle engine, and I know there are more different type of rocket engines out there, but this is like like I can't like make an entire like 20-minute long an extra 20 minutes just talking about all the cycles. And I think like the main idea of what a rocket engine is, this should be like good enough. But if you want a video about different types of rocket engines, please leave a comment below. The Raptor engine. Other than being one of the 14 engines in the world to use methane as its fuel, it is also special in another way. It is FFSC, which stands for Full Flow Stage Combustion, which no other engine in the world uses. But what is FFSC? You may be asking me. That's what I'll show you now. So you have fuel and oxidizer here. You remember your open cycle engines? We have one preburner and one turbine, right? Except now we have two preburners, this one, and they have two turbines, this one and this one. You already know basically what the preburner is, like a mini rocket engine that spins a turbine that powers the pumps. But 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 now, for example, this side you got a fuel here with a lot of fuel in this preburner and a little bit of oxygen in this one, which like pumps the fuel, which goes in a combustion chamber. And this one we have a lot of oxygen, a little bit of fuel in this one, and it comes in a combustion chamber. And like because this one has more fuel in the system, and this one has less. This has more oxidizer system. It comes here and be like kind of a good amount instead of like being like a lot of fuel and or little oxidizer. But one of the things you may have seen here is that this design doesn't waste a single drop of fuel. Our open cycle engine like dump fuel overboard, but this doesn't dump anything overboard. Like nothing, as you can see. All everything goes in a combustion chamber. And that FFSC. But what makes the Raptor engine so important? This engine is one of the most complex engines in the world. I mean, look at the diagram of the thumbnail. That thing's insane, and that's not even so the all. That's not even a full diagram of it. There's more little pipes everywhere, here and there. But that's getting beyond the point. But this engine is really efficient engine because it uses the full flow stage combustion, which uses all the fuel and oxidizer and doesn't give waste any. But also the rocket that is going to be having it, the Starship rocket, will send humans to the moon and Mars and be one of the most capable rockets in the world. I won't go too much detail in what a Starship rocket is because I already made a video about it, but basically it's the biggest rocket and will send people to the moon and Mars and can carry massive payloads to other planets. And the world's cheapest rocket if you include reusability in the Raptor. But thank you for listening and have a good day.